For me, the most frustrating kind of movie is one that squanders decent potential. And I know what some of you are thinking just from the title alone. Ryan, there is no way in hell you walked into this painfully apparent Hollywood pump and dump and expected said potential. Well, I'll admit I was morbidly curious in the same way I still occasionally flick through Twitter. I know what I'm getting into, I know it wears its feces on its sleeve, and I know unquestionably that this product is not for me. However, it's been a good while since I last checked in on my preconceived snobbish cynicism that these forgettable, obnoxiously hollow mainstream gimmick-centric horror films are still truly as bad as the general consensus would have me believe. Yet, out of all the slop horror films from 2024 that are regularly trending on digital platforms I use, Tarot seemed like it could be at least some dumb, harmless fun. I mean, I still kinda want to see Night Swim because it gave me Dead Man's Float vibes from Are You Afraid of the Dark, but when I thought about it, Tarot looked like a speedrun of ideas you'd expect to see in Are You Afraid of the Dark anyway, so brace yourself. Tarot tells the story of a group of college friends who discover a mysterious deck of tarot cards in the basement of a mansion they booked for a birthday party, and after having their individual futures read to them via horoscopes, each friend begins to die one by one in a supernatural manner indicative of what their cards foretold. I guarantee I did not even need to tell you that synopsis for you to work it out on your own, because even 16 years ago when I was a teenager, I wrote a short film egregiously similar to this. I'm obviously not saying they stole my idea, but what I am saying is, how did it take Hollywood this long to capitalize on such an obvious concept that effortlessly writes itself? This is Final Destination for the TikTok generation. Now, before we dive deep into despair, this video is made possible thanks to Opera and their new evolution of browser, Opera 1R2, that says goodbye to the days of navigating cumbersome browser tabs, extensions, and features. I never realized how much time and effort I was wasting with janky interfaces until I started using Opera for both personal and professional use. I can open a script document I'm working on and another tab containing my notes next to it, so I can work cleanly and efficiently in one window thanks to the split screen feature. And with the use of tab islands, I can separate all my browsing activities into groups, so I don't have to close or hunt through dozens of windows when switching tasks on the fly. In fact, Opera even lets me trace recently used tabs indicated by an underscore, making for easy navigation. Aria, Opera's integrated AI tool, is glorious with helping with some of these tasks, as I can ask it any question by simply pressing Ctrl/ or Command/ and Aria's command line immediately pops up. Aria can also generate images based on a single prompt, while image recognition will give you information and answer questions about the image you uploaded. With Opera, you can finally customize your browser to make it personal, accessible, and engaging to you, with animated backgrounds, sounds, and UI colors, as well as stylish themes like Classic, Aurora, and Midsummer. And of course, with the floating music player, I can play music and podcasts without interrupting any of my daily tasks. You can begin your better browsing experience today by clicking the link in the description box below and downloading Opera. The film structure is pretty boilerplate. Set the scene, kill a character, give us a small endorphin boost, swipe to the next, repeat the process, and leave me feeling bad for wasting my time once it's all over. That said, as scathing as it sounds, I'm sure you're asking me, still Ryan, why are you making a full video on this film when you could channel your energy into literally anything else? Well, here's the thing. While I wouldn't necessarily recommend the film, there are some oddly decent and, dare I say, compelling ideas in here I think are worth exploring, even if it botches all of them. Now, again, like I said in the beginning, this movie is obviously not for my demographic. It's a PG-13 teen horror that takes itself far more seriously than I take myself, which says a lot, and is given the bare minimum execution to startle a non-horror audience looking to fulfill their one scary movie per year quota, and unfortunately it was fucking Jack's turn to pick the movie and he said it would be lol. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, I think it's fair to say it initially shows promise. The youthful music, sassy dialogue, twisty-turny presence-like camera work, the elaborately spooky gothic house, the unsubtle, if foreboding energy. There is a jovial, almost self-aware vibe to it. Yes, it's still like every generic teen supernatural slasher flick, but it knows its consumer, it's manufactured with all the familiar beats, and I appreciate it doesn't waste much time getting to the point. After a a night of drinking, boredom settles in and the group decides to investigate the basement, where after discovering a spooky deck of cards, it turns out our central protagonist Healy is well versed in the art of tarot card reading. Now, the real-world superstition and occultism around tarot cards is given as much depth as humouring a shady fortune teller at a tourist trap, in that there really is none. They literally throw out some line about it predicting the future and it being some devil shit and leave it at that, because obviously that's kind of where it's going. However, it's the cards themselves that piqued my interest, because they're all individually crafted with a style that mixes a bit of Hieronymus Bosch with the Necronomicon illustrations from Evil Dead. Of course, with a barrier that high, nothing you see going forward ever reaches the sinister aura off the cards. It just goes to hammer in how much impact simple, raw, pure, evocative artistry has on the soul. I mean, just you wait until you see how the film brings them to life. It is expectations versus reality levels of disappointment. So the way it goes is that there are 12 cards in a circle representing the zodiac, and a 13th card in the middle representing the theme, which naturally for all of them ends up being bad. Healy reads each horoscope one by one, where everything she says is a foreshadowing for literally everything that happens to that character. For example, the first death, Elise, gets the High Priestess card and is told she is drawn by curiosity and is climbing a ladder to success, but she should tread carefully, otherwise the priestess will cause her to slip up and suffer a crushing blow. How does she die? She hears a noise in the attic, climbs a ladder to investigate, is scared by the priestess, slips off the ladder, and is literally crushed to death. At first, you might be thinking to yourself that maybe the readings are some sort of vapid thematic type shit, but nope, I am not kidding. Everything she says happens verbatim. Oh, maybe they'll use it to twist and subvert your Nope. Everything happens verbatim. Following this in order, Madeline gets the Hanged Man, Paige gets the Magician, Paxton gets the Fool, Lucas gets the Hermit, Grant gets the fucking Devil, and Healy herself gets Death, which kind of defeats the point when it's later explained that all the cards signify death anyway. While there is proper context to these cards and their interpretive meanings in real life, the film gives you no real lore to work with. They're all basically picked as a monster of the week, where each character literally encounters a supernatural variant of the card they've been dealt. I know it's not exactly well regarded either, but you could think of it as a worse version of 2001's 13 Ghosts, where it has some really cool designs and even implications of lore, but nothing about it is cohesive or well fleshed out. Now, assuming you're resigned to how predictable the film is, the group discover from a couple of Google searches that the cards are obviously cursed, and after decades of death caused by apparent freak accidents, they learn that the one sole survivor thus far is seeking to destroy the deck once and for all. The survivor named Alma explains that the hand-painted deck of cards sealed with an inverted zodiac were created by an unnamed astrologer in Hungary in 1798. It was said the astrologer made divinely accurate readings of the future for the Count and his wife, but during the wife's pregnancy, the reading prophesied her and her baby's death, with all attempts to change the reading still resulting in the same fatal outcome. The astrologer was subsequently banished, and after destiny struck, the Count accused her of witchcraft and sought vengeance, resulting in him murdering the astrologer's daughter as an eye for an eye. The grief-stricken astrologer retaliated by binding her soul to a deck of tarot cards using her own blood to create a death curse, resulting in the demise of the Count, his inner circle, and anyone who had their futures foretold by the very same deck of cards. The only reason Alma survived is simply because she never read her own horoscope, thus is untethered from the curse. In fact, it kind of insinuates that if you know how to read horoscopes, you can technically use the cards like Death Note and kill anyone you want, which I thought would be a thing given the recurring tension between Healy and her ex-boyfriend Grant, whose horoscope is read pretty spitefully, thus he ends up with the devil, but no, it doesn't go anywhere with this. That's largely about it in terms of story, the rest just comes down to whether or not the kills are worth it, and if that first death is anything to go by, it's not going to get much better. On the same night that Elise dies, Lucas tries to catch a train, which means you immediately know his fate when he's stalked by the hermit carrying a torch because, as Haley foretold, the hermit's light will lead him down the wrong track. Oh my god. Again, like with all these cards, it starts with potential. I got scary stories to tell in the dark vibes because the imagery of the hermit is actually pretty effective, but then it just takes the laziest road to the end. To its credit, it does attempt to throw a vague thematic curveball with Haley when she explains how she came to accept the inevitability of death and how you cannot change fate when her mother died of illness following multiple procedures to cure her, which in itself mirrors the Count forcing the astrologer to change the death reading only for the result to always be the same. It suggests the reason Haley is so well versed in tarot is because it was her attempt at a coping mechanism to comprehend the mysterious, unexplainable, and often unpreventable ways of life. In fact, it helped her overcome a feeling of guilt when she felt powerless to help her ailing mother. I'm sorry. Where the fuck did this come from? It's a very small but poignantly loaded moment that actually resonates with how people deal with life not following the path they want it to. There is the thinnest thread of effort to highlight this theme of, hey, maybe we shouldn't open Pandora's box. Maybe we should let fate remain a mystery rather than become something we hopelessly try to control. Anyway, back to killing people. The one I was particularly curious about was the Hanged Man, because it's the most overtly fantastical looking card, and boy do they make a choice with this one. This one shows no promising setup. On their way to the mansion to retrieve the cards, their car breaks down on a bridge, and it seems we're dealing with an animal of sorts. Haley's reading is another cringe reflection because she says Madeline will run from her problems, but it will soon be water under the bridge, and she shouldn't get hung up on things. Don't worry, it's nearly over. As Madeline then runs away, we're confronted with this bulgy-eyed CG abomination which has a noose for a tail that inevitably hangs Madeline. Following this, Paxton, for some illogical reason, decides to go it alone, only to end up dealing with the Fool, which is basically a poor man's Pennywise at first, and I just want to take a moment here to say that his character is easily the most frustrating because he's the only decent actor amongst them, yet their efforts to have him ham up a role similar to his one as Peter Parker's mate in Spider-Man just falls flat. There was initially a thin thread of potential in him being this obsessive true crime nerd, but it's not like Scream where they used it to any sort of satirical or subversive effect. However, I'll come back to his card last because let's just say he has the strangest outcome. When they finally arrive at the mansion, the surviving group recover the cards and summon Alma to help destroy them via seance with the astrologer, but it unceremoniously bites her in the ass when the astrologer then forcefully reads Alma's horoscope since she avoided it the first time, and she's killed with swords. It's honestly kind of funny how anticlimactic it is, because instead of this proper confrontation where Alma has been trying to track down these cards for years, she just immediately submits to her fate with such a wet fart of, lol, she's too powerful, sorry guys, we're all going to die. Paige then gets separated and sawn in half by the magician, which felt like the worst part of Insidious, where it overplays its hand with eccentric visuals that feel more akin to Goosebumps than an adult horror movie. It's just very dull and muted. The card itself is pretty grotesque, but the spirit is anything but. This takes us to Grant, who is attacked by what is supposed to be the fucking devil, leaving us with Haley, who then hears the devil demon spawn creature thing morph into Death, thus confirming to me that the astrologer's spirit must manifest into whatever the card is supposed to represent. Death just looks like Vesna from Stranger Things. In fact, now that I think about it, the movie just derives from everything I've seen before. Grant ends up miraculously surviving and saving Haley just in time so she can read the astrologer's horoscope in the hopes of reversing the curse. And shockingly, they actually defeat her, which is edited in such a way to imply that Haley is also letting go of her grief and guilt surrounding her mother, I think? I expected it to play up the mean-spiritedness of you can't change fate, so I honestly thought everyone was going to die, but nope, it's a happy ending. Haley and Grant escape and are picked up by Paxton, who, against the film's own logic, survives. So let's end by going back to him. Dare I say, the fool that Paxton deals with actually has a bit of legitimate creep factor to him. As he tries to get back to his dorm, Paxton gets stuck in an elevator where every time the door opens, he's harassed by the fool, which is in the form of a jester, who's given a very modestly expressive delivery akin to the Babadook of all things. It's surreal and somewhat off-putting, just enough that it feels distinctive, if incredibly short-lived. But the reason Paxton survives is because his roommate Todd opens the elevator and seemingly disrupts the curse or something like that. The thing is, this all happens long before the mansion scene, so unless it's trying to suggest that Healy ended the curse before the fool could kill him, the reading that Paxton will be there for his friends in unexpected ways implies he was always going to survive, meaning the curse does not guarantee death, which would go against the basic premise the film establishes. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it, but if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below. I had a lot of fun messing around with it and might do more videos like this in the future, so send me your requests. But until next time, stay safe, stay away from tarot cards, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.